Black Rangers of Yosemite Park. Buffalo Soldiers, like their white counterparts in U.S. Army regiments, were among the first park rangers in general, and backcountry rangers in particular, patrolling parts of the West. African American Army regiments formed just after the Civil War. As background, the U.S. Army served as the official administrator of the Yosemite and Sequoia National Parks between 1891 and 1913. And, in that capacity, it helped create a model for park management as we know today. The hidden chapter of this U.S. Army history revolves around the participation of African American troops in the 24th Infantry and 9th Cavalry, who protected both Yosemite and Sequoia National Parks in 1899, 1903, and 1904. The parks are located approximately 150 miles apart. Most of these men were veterans of the Spanish-American War and the Philippine-American War, in which they were called the Smoked Yankees. Many of them enlisted in the South, where opportunities for African Americans were limited due to sharecropping and other labor-intensive work. Even though the Buffalo Soldiers wore the uniform of the U.S. Army, they were routinely abused or even killed for the slightest perceived offense. They occupied one of the lowest rungs of the social ladder, a fact which served to undercut the authority of any black man who served in any position of power. Yosemite and Sequoia's Buffalo Soldiers had to be simultaneously strong and diplomatic to fulfill the duties of their job, but to avoid giving offense. Although officers were mostly European American, an exception to this was Charles Young, the third African American graduate of the U.S. Military Academy at West Point. He served as the acting military superintendent of Sequoia National Park in 1903. Young is considered by some to be the first African American superintendent of a national park. Most of the men under Young's command in Sequoia, as well as the 9th Cavalry, soldiers serving in Yosemite were Philippine War veterans, but service in the Sierra brought out an astonishing change in geography and functioned for these battle-weary men. Their duties included confiscating firearms as well as curbing the poaching of the park's wildlife and suppressing wildfires. Their accomplishments included, but by no means were limited to, the completion of the first usable road into giant forests and the trail up to the top of Mount Whitney in Sequoia National Park in 1903, and the building of an arboretum in Yosemite National Park near the South Fork of the Merced River in 1904. Thus, an integral part of that history played by the 500 Buffalo Soldiers, comprised of 8 troops of cavalry and 1 company of infantry, will no longer be forgotten.